The altcoins are firing up and XRP has been doing great. And when XRP is doing that, we know for certain that altcoins are going to blast off. That's why in this video we're going to discuss 5 coins that I expect to explode and are in my portfolio. Hello, we have partnered with OKX, and if you sign up before December the 5th, you're going to get 2 important things, which is the lowest trading fees. Right now we have the bull market and I want to trade as much as I can. So I'm very happy with the lowest fees that I can get on OKX. And if you sign up, you can earn up to 270 euros in free money if you hold a certain amount of cash on the exchange. The link you can find beneath here. Make sure to sign up and have a wonderful time on OKX. We've just had the OKX Promo, which is available in Belgium, and it's the final day to join. If you want to earn free Bitcoin or euros, whatever you want, you have to do it today, December the 5th. Now, congratulations. I mean, we have been waiting for multiple years to see what's happening right now, especially if you have been holding XRP since 2018 or 2021. We are currently close to a new all-time high, so we are able to rotate that towards the next coins. Also, coins like Hedera Hashgraph and the old OG coins in 2017 are going bananas, and that is actually great. But it's time to take a step back and see what we should be doing here and what is the actual appropriate strategy. But before we're going to do that, I want to discuss something else with you, which is on Tuesday, I'm super proud. A big guest is joining the podcast. You can comment and let me know beneath who is going to be the one. I think you're going to like the actual conversation I did, so probably you will do that too, because I'm the actual audience as well, just like you are. And then if you want to be part of that journey, and if you want to build this alongside our team, our social media channels, the podcast, the YouTube channel, and everything that we do in the center of Amsterdam, we've got a new job opening, which is social media manager, which you can find in the description beneath, of course. And finally, we've got the consultancy. It is the final month to join the forces of MN Consultancy. We're going to close our doors on the 1st of January as we are quickly expanding and we want to service a high quality service towards our clients. So make sure to reach out towards us through the link beneath. In the past month, Bitcoin did a plus 37%. But for instance, if you were in high or medium plus risk portfolios, you would have done 60% or more. So there's a lot of momentum to be made there. We are there for you to take care of your portfolio and make the return alongside you on your journey. Now, let's discuss the altcoin market. It is getting absolutely wild. It is just all over 2017 again at the start. And that's the tricky part. We are just at the start of most of those coins. Some are going crazy. And those are the ones that you're lucky in if you're already in those coins. But if we look at the bigger scope, if you look at Ethereum, for instance, the Ethereum ETF is starting to get momentum in the sense that it has seen a stronger day than the Bitcoin ETF in terms of inflow. More than 300 million came into the Ethereum ETF, signaling that the institutional investors are not only interested into Bitcoin, but they are also interested into Ethereum. And that is great to see. But once we are looking at the ETH against Bitcoin pair, we can technically see that we're still in a bear market and we just barely started moving upwards, which shows that if after 3 years we are finally getting into a bull cycle of altcoins, then there's still a lot to come. It's still the perfect storm. It's still the great bull cycle that we are all anticipating on. And especially if Ethereum is just barely moving at this point, it's undervalued and there are so much more to come on those altcoins. And then I would like to look at an example which you can see. It is XRP, which has been going absolutely crazy, and it shows what the markets can do. It has been adding more than 110 billion in market capitalization in less than a month and is back in the top 3 of cryptocurrencies. It's all over 2017 again, but that amount of money that has been added towards XRP, which is now at around 150 billion, is going to rotate into the remainder of the markets. And also, alongside XRP, we've seen Hedera Hashgraph, we have seen XLM, we start to see ENS doing great. We see a lot of those older layer ones absolutely skyrocketing, and that is great. But why is this taking place, and how should we handle this? Well, first of all, liquidity from XRP is being added into the other coins, which shows that XRP is going way higher than we all were expecting it to go, through which it's also not over. I think it's just having its first run, so there's still a lot more upside to come. Doesn't really say that you should be entering it at this point, but it says that there's still a lot more upside to come. And also, we can see that Bitcoin is consolidating, which opens up the room for the remainder of the markets to start moving. So Bitcoin is just consolidating since it reached 99.3K. And from that period, we are currently seeing altcoins doing a triple or even more. And ETH is just barely moving. So it shows that the markets are going to go way higher than we all expected to go. They're going to go way higher than they have been going at the beginning of this year. The markets are going to be way more volatile and comparable to 2017. And I suspect that the coming periods and the coming months are going to be tremendous for your portfolio, but it could also be disastrous for your portfolio. So it's time to discuss some coins that I expect to do really well, that haven't moved or are at the start of a move. And let's discuss them because they are in our portfolio. The following 5 coins are being discussed in this video. We're going to discuss them one by one. And I need to say that they are part of my personal portfolio or they are part of our VC portfolio. This means that we are having a biased view. We're not getting sponsored by them. We've got skin in the game by investing into them ourselves. So let's discuss the 5 coins that I wanted to discuss in this video, which is through a few key reasons. And they need to be new. And the reason for that is that if you invest into a cryptocurrency or into a project, then if you have a coin that has been going through the 2020 and 2021 cycle, and usually there are some bag holders pushing down the actual coin. It doesn't say it can't make new all-time highs, but given that it's going into its second cycle, usually the returns are going to be less. So for instance, if you're looking to invest in Chainlink, Aave, of course that makes sense. The risk is less, it's already existing here, but the returns will be less too. And I am trying to make the most of it in terms of the highest return possible. Now, they need to provide a solution for an existing problem. So for instance, if I need a cleaner in my apartment, then I invest in the cleaner because it comes by and it cleans my house. Very simple. I want to see some sort of the same issue being solved by using Web3 and not just being a token for a token, right? Which also means that there needs to be a use case for the actual token, and it needs to go into price discovery, which is kind of hand in hand with the first point, where it goes in price discovery, which we've not seen before, and then it can be quite irrational and go higher than we all expected. And on top of that, not with all of them, it's actually the case, but I prefer to have Binance listings because Binance opens up the amount of liquidity for the actual token. So there are 5 coins that I wanted to discuss, and the first one, as you can see on the screen, is Optimism. And Optimism is in my personal portfolio. And in my personal portfolio, and actually in my previous video, I said you don't need to have super small memes, gems, gaming protocols, or whatever. You need to have the right ones, the higher beta plays than the blue chips, and you need to trade them well. So if your thesis is that Ethereum is going to do well and Ethereum needs layer 2s, then you want to invest into something like Optimism, which technically if Ethereum goes up by 10%, Optimism is likely going to go up by 20%. So I'm very comfortable having Optimism in my portfolio as my base asset. And it's a good thing I'm actually in profit since I've been going all in into altcoins. So if you're feeling free to comment on that particular strategy, feel free to do so. I do not care. The point is, I've got some very big altcoins in there, and when we look at the use case of optimism, then we know that through optimism and all those other layer 2s, we are able to scale up the Ethereum network. And if we look at optimism in terms of price action, we can see that we are getting up with the USDT valuation, also primarily due to the fact that the Bitcoin valuation starts to go up. And we know that this run is likely going to get optimism way higher than the ones that we had at the beginning of 2024. But still, my first take profit level is going to be around the March high. And as you can see, there will likely be a consolidative period taking place. We have seen it here. But once that consolidation takes place, I might be going to add more based from other coins that have been moving and putting it back into it. But especially when we're looking at the Bitcoin valuation, then we can see that we have a massive bullish divergence on the daily, 3-day, and the weekly, and it's just yet to break out. And the March high is still a 3.5x from here, which means that if we go there and just have the first run and go back towards that Bitcoin level and Bitcoin remains stagnant, then a 3.5x from here is yielding me a substantial return, where optimism is likely going to go anywhere between 10 to 15 bucks in the upcoming run, not discussing the next run. And it just didn't move yet. It's still yet to break out. So that is why I want to have this as one of my anchor coins in my portfolio. The second one is Sai, as we can see on the screen. Sai is a very comparable layer 1 to Sui in terms of new. It's a Binance listing. It's solving a case of having high throughput, and especially for trading, you can actually use the Sai ecosystem. It has seen a 70 to 80% correction. It starts to wake up. And I think that the first run we had in March of this year, where we went 10x, is just the first bump on the ride, where it's very likely to expect a continuation, because I suspect that in general, we are going to have specific layer 1s for specific use cases. For Ethereum, it's DeFi, institutional. For Solana, it's more retail. For Near, it's more focused on a vertical. For AVAX, it's more focused on a vertical as well. And so it is for Sui and Sai. That's completely fine. So I think that Sai has a certain existence opportunity here, where if you look at the USDT pair, then I actually marked it. Where are we at currently with the run? And I think that that's a valid statement. We're currently at the beginning of the run, where it just consolidates, or it just slowly grinds upwards and starts to accelerate once we crack through this high of around $1, which I've got marked as one of the levels where I'm looking to actually take profits on from this perspective. And again, if we're looking at the Bitcoin valuation, it didn't move. It is just at the accumulation. It didn't even make a new high. And if we get towards this high, we can see that it's a 3.5 to 4x against Bitcoin again. And that is a giant move upwards. And I know that you will probably be asking yourself, like, okay, so if I'll be taking profits around this area, what's next? Well, we're going to discuss that on this channel. But if you do a 4x against Bitcoin and you put that back into Bitcoin, you have been doing great. So that is my second one. Now it's time to go into some smaller coins, which, as a matter of reference, I think that infra in the sense of restaking is super important, especially since Ether is the layer 0 and layer 1. You've got layer 2s, you've got DeFi protocols as layer 3s. You've got multiple other bridges and all those things taking place in the Ether ecosystem. But you need to use the liquidity from ETH to secure everything. And that's a narrative that's likely going to do well, which means that I've got Omni in my portfolio, which is barely waking up, as we can see on the chart. It's having its standard correction taking place after the Binance listing, where a lot of VCs likely were taking profits. And now, after a period of the entire summer where we have been consolidating, Omni is starting to break out, where the first target zone was reached, but it's very likely that this one is going to go through the high of the listing in April and very likely going to continue pushing. As when we look at the Bitcoin valuation, we've got a massive bullish divergence. We've got a period of accumulation that's actually finalized at this point. And if we go towards this high, again, it's a 3.5 to 4x, which is comparable to coins like Wormhole, Renzo, all those ones, where I think that likely we're going to fill this entire wick, where this is one of those coins where I suspect it can do a massive run. Now, let's turn into some coins that are not in my personal portfolio. Let's talk about Alchemy. You know that I've been tweeting a lot about Alchemy because we have invested into Alchemy from our VC. We have been doing that throughout the entire year already, actually doubled down. And they have, it's a protocol with a model that's a template for the remainder of the market. So everyone that is in the ecosystem benefits from growth. So you've got the revenue being shared with the stakers. You actually have the ability that the publishers are going to make a higher ROE out of using the Alchemy blockchain. And we have also seen that the revenue that Alchemy makes is the exact same amount of US dollar value on a day compared to Polkadot. While Alchemy is valued at 50 million, Polkadot is at 6 billion. And they recently announced a partnership with Coca-Cola, which is likely going to triple the amount of revenue that they make, which you get a cut from if you become a validator. And they have unlocked access to Samsung DSP, which is ad gear, which is increasing the ecosystem of Alchemy, where if you look at it from a technical perspective, from the TA perspective, you can see that Alchemy is just breaking out of its current accumulation period for the first time since existence. So it's currently above 30 cents and it starts its uptrend. It has been accumulating into this range for multiple years. And I think that especially since Coca-Cola came on, Warner Bros. Came on, Samsung is coming on, that the ecosystem will quickly expand over the year of 2025, where I think that this valuation compared to the revenue that they make is super low. So this is definitely one that I'll be looking at to accumulate some more on the dips, but I also expect that this is going towards its fair value for what it should be in 2025. The final one is also a VC investment, which I briefly touched upon on YouTube before, but it is Peak. I think that Deepin overall is a new narrative, a new vertical that is just starting up, and Peak was recently listed. It's still uncharted territory, but the fact that it has more than 50 to 60 coins within its ecosystem means that it's substantially growing at this point. And then on top of that, we also have more than 3 million devices being connected with the Peak network, and there are more than 40 Deepins being built in the ecosystem of Peak. So you can also stake it, get a return. It's listed everywhere. There's more than $1 billion in total machine value in the ecosystem, and the current valuation is just $2 billion. So I expect that this one is going to do great in the upcoming period, where if we look at it from the TA perspective, and if we compare it towards Grass, for instance, yes, it is just barely live. But I think that if it is going to have any 30 to 50% corrections, then those are the ones that you want to get into, because if there is an actual new narrative taking place, those are going to be irrationally high. We know that DeFi did this. We know that NFTs did this. We know that Deepin will do this as well. And I think that if you want to invest into a new narrative, then you need to invest into the cornerstones of that actual narrative, which is a layer 1. So the top 5 coins that I think that are going to do really well and have a lower amount of risk are Optimism, Omni, Psy, Peak, and Alchemy. I hope you have been enjoying this update. I'll be back on Sunday with our regular weekly insights on the markets. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to comment on who you think is going to be our third guest. And I'll see you again on Sunday. Ciao.